At 2:14 a.m., deep in the Jordanian desert, near the point where three borders almost meet, a remote American outpost suddenly becomes the center of the entire region's attention. A quiet night turns into something else. The cooling arrays around a USAN/TPY-2 radar begin to register an extreme thermal surge. 5 seconds later, the horizon flashes white. The $300 million X-band radar, often described as the eyes of the American THAAD defense network, is not simply damaged. It disappears from the digital map. According to Tehran, a single Iranian Fateh-1 hypersonic system had done what it was designed to do: slip past layered defenses and find the one weak point in the perimeter. For Iran, it looks like a message. For Washington, it is something very different. Inside the combat information centers of the U.S. Fifth Fleet, there is no visible chaos. The radar in Jordan may be gone, but the command network is still alive. In fact, the Pentagon has already authorized a full regional response architecture. If Tehran believed removing one radar would leave the U.S. military blind, the next moments are about to prove the opposite. It has not shut down the system, it has activated it. To understand why this moment matters, you first have to understand what an AN/TPY-2 radar really is. This is not just a dish on a truck. It is a massive mobile phased array sensor, powerful enough to track extremely small objects from enormous distances. It feeds targeting data to interceptor systems like the SM-3 and SM-6, helping protect carrier groups, bases, and major cities across the region. Losing it is like a championship boxer suddenly losing vision in one eye during the middle of a fight. The body can still move, the instincts are still there, but for a moment the balance changes. Iran's plan appears to have relied on speed, timing, and overload. First came a wave of low-cost one-way drones, designed to crowd the radar picture and force the system to sort through too many signals at once. Then, while the network was filtering through the clutter, the Fateh-1 moved through the upper atmosphere. Its maneuverable re-entry vehicle made a sharp lateral shift, creating a flight profile local defense batteries were not expecting. The result was not just a physical loss, it was a temporary break in the information advantage the U.S. depends on across the Middle East. For roughly 15 minutes, a corridor of airspace over the Persian Gulf became far more exposed than anyone in Washington would be comfortable admitting. But that window is already closing. Aboard the USS Arleigh Burke, Commander Sarah Jenkins does not wait for a satellite confirmation. She is watching the Link 16 data stream from a nearby E-2D Hawkeye. The aircraft has detected the thermal signature linked to the launch area in western Iran. The response network has its first confirmed point of focus. Within 3 minutes of the radar going offline, the integrated warfare system is moving at full speed. In the northern Arabian Sea, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower turns into the wind. On the flight deck, the yellow shirts move with practiced precision, directing aircraft into position under the floodlights. The first aircraft launched are 4 EA-18G Growlers, among the most advanced electronic warfare platforms in the world. Their mission is to create the opening. Each Growler carries ALQ-218 tactical jamming systems. As they move toward the Iranian coastline, their role is not simply to interfere with enemy radar. They are there to overwhelm, confuse, and fracture the digital picture on the other side. In modern conflict, the first move is not always about firepower. Sometimes the first move is silence. At Bandar Abbas, Iranian air defense operators stare at their screens and see calm, empty airspace. Everything looks clean. Everything looks normal. But that picture is not real. The EA-18G Growlers are feeding their systems a carefully crafted illusion, a digital replay that makes Iranian batteries believe the skies are quiet, while American aircraft are already moving deep beyond the coastline. Behind the Growlers come the F-35C Lightning IIs. Each aircraft carries precision standoff weapons, but this is not a classic air battle. The F-35s are not there to chase anything through the sky. They are flying data hubs, silent nodes inside a much larger machine. They are not even relying on their own radar to locate the objective. Instead, they are receiving information from space-based infrared sensors hundreds of miles above the Earth. The launch area connected to the Fateh-1 is now being tracked, marked, and mapped in ways the operators on the ground cannot see. Iranian commanders may still believe they scored a major success in Jordan. What they do not know is that a dozen stealth aircraft are already selecting the next pieces of the network to remove from the board. And while most attention is focused on the sky, another part of the response is moving quietly beneath the surface of the Gulf. The USS Florida, an Ohio-class guided missile submarine, receives a flash priority message. This vessel is not built for show. It is built for scale. With the ability to carry more than 150 Tomahawk land attack systems, the Florida represents one of the most concentrated forms of long-range conventional power in the U.S. arsenal. Inside the control room, there is no chaos, no raised voices, no panic, just focused operators, glowing screens, and the steady rhythm of commands being entered. A new target package appears, an IRGC command and control facility near Isfahan. Time on target, 3:30 a.m. The order is given. One after another, launch tubes clear. Tomahawk systems rise from the water, their boosters igniting as they transition into flight. Within moments, they drop low over the surface, skimming just above the waves and shaping their route to avoid early detection. These are not simple projectiles. They are long-range autonomous strike systems using GPS, terrain mapping, and digital scene matching to navigate through complex geography. They do not need to fly in a straight line. They can adjust, weave, and follow carefully planned corridors through mountain valleys and open terrain. Iran may have removed a fixed radar site from the battlefield, but now it is facing a distributed response. Dozens of independently guided systems, each assigned a separate objective, each approaching from a different path. By 3:15 a.m., the Iranian Integrated Air Defense Network begins to understand that something is wrong. Operators attempt to track the incoming wave with Russian-made S-400 radar systems. That decision changes everything. The moment the radar begins transmitting, it reveals itself. High above the region, an F-16CJ Wild Weasel picks up the signal. The aircraft identifies the frequency, locks onto the emission, and releases an AGM-88 harm. The AGM-88 is designed for one purpose: finding radar energy. It does not need to see the radar visually. It follows the signal back to its source at extreme speed. Moments later, the S-400 radar site in southern Iran goes offline. Then another sensor goes silent, then another. Piece by piece, the Iranian air defense picture begins to collapse. This is where the larger argument is being decided in real time. Iran may have fast weapons, but the United States has something different. A connected network that sees, shares, adapts, and responds. In modern warfare, speed matters, but awareness matters more, because you cannot track what you cannot see. And every time a radar lights up, it risks becoming the next point on the map to disappear. At 3:30 a.m., exactly on schedule, the first wave of BGM-109 Tomahawks reaches Isfahan. But the objective is not the city itself, it is the network behind it. The focus is on hardened IRGC command facilities, the protected centers that connect leadership, air defense units, and field batteries across the region. The United States is not aiming for a symbolic response. It is going after the systems that allow Iran's military structure to communicate, coordinate, and react. The first Tomahawk reaches a key power substation, and the military district is suddenly thrown into darkness. The next wave moves toward communication towers and relay points. Within minutes, the command structure in Isfahan begins losing contact with units across the field. Orders no longer move cleanly. Radar batteries are asking for direction, but the answers are delayed, broken, or never arrive at all. What began as a strike on one American radar is now turning into something much larger. For every high-value system Iran managed to take offline, the U.S. response is methodically removing layers of Iranian military infrastructure. The cost of Tehran's move is rising by the minute, and what looked like a bold opening suddenly begins to look like a strategic miscalculation. Inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Arleigh Burke, battle assessment data scrolls across the screens in real time. Satellite feeds confirm dozens of objectives are no longer functioning. Iran's Western air defense sector, once expected to slow any American response, has been heavily disrupted in a matter of minutes. Tehran may have expected a limited exchange. A few precision systems in response to one radar. That is not what happens. A second American carrier strike group, led by the USS Abraham Lincoln, moves into position in the Gulf of Oman. Now more than 130 American combat aircraft are operating across the region at the same time. This is no longer about matching one move with another. This is about pressure from every direction. From the Lincoln, a wave of F/A-18E Super Hornets moves toward Iranian fast boat facilities. These aircraft are not relying on the largest weapons in the inventory. Instead, they use smaller precision-guided systems designed for moving maritime targets in difficult conditions. The effect is immediate. Coastal facilities that were preparing for swarm tactics around the Strait of Hormuz suddenly find themselves unable to move freely. Boats remain trapped in port. Launch areas are monitored from above. Every time a door opens, every time activity appears, unmanned aircraft already circling high overhead pass the information into the wider network. The message is clear. The U.S. does not need to respond with one overwhelming move. It can sustain a constant rhythm of precision, surveillance, and pressure. Iran's Fatah 1 may have been presented as a single breakthrough weapon. The United States is showing something different. Not one weapon, but an entire system. A system that sees, connects, adapts, and replaces its losses while the operation is still unfolding. Supply routes stretching back to Norfolk and San Diego are already moving components to restore the damaged radar site in Jordan, while Iranian production and command facilities face mounting disruption. As the first light begins to spread over the Zagros Mountains, the final moment of the operation arrives. It is not another strike. It is a signal. A B-2 Spirit stealth aircraft, having flown non-stop from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, remains unseen by radar. High above Tehran, at 50,000 feet, it does not release a payload. Instead, it marks the presidential palace with a non-lethal laser designator. No explosion, no announcement, just an invisible point of light placed directly on the center of power. A message delivered without a single word. We can reach you. At the same time, phones across the IRGC command structure light up with the same message. Attached is a high-resolution satellite image of the Fede 1 launch team, captured only hours earlier. Beneath it is a short warning in Farsi. We saw the launch. We saw the celebration. We are watching every move. Stand down. This is not just a military response. It is a message about control. The United States is not only showing that it can reach physical targets, it is showing that it had visibility across the entire information space from the moment the first launch sequence began. The loss of the $300 million radar was not the end of American awareness. It became the starting point for a much larger demonstration of how fast the system could identify, connect, and respond. By the time the 90-minute operation ends, the map tells the story. Multiple radar sites are offline. Communication hubs are no longer functioning. Hypersonic launch facilities have been removed from the active network. A key IRGC formation has lost the ability to coordinate effectively. The estimated cost for Iran runs into billions of dollars in hardware, infrastructure, and years of hardened construction. For the United States, the visible cost is one radar system and the fuel required to keep the operation moving. In the language of modern military networks, this was not a simple exchange. It was a high-efficiency response. The U.S. Fifth Fleet has proven that the kill chain is not a straight line. It is a web. Break one strand, and the entire structure reacts. Every sensor, aircraft, satellite, ship, and command node begins feeding the same picture. Iran did not blind the system. It revealed where the system should look next. The radar site in Jordan is not just being replaced. Additional sensors are now being positioned to reinforce the coverage gap, protected by advanced interceptor systems designed to challenge high-speed threats during their mid-course phase. The gap in the fence is closed. And this time, it is guarded more heavily than before. Behind all the numbers, all the platforms, and all the technology, there is a more important reality. The tactical action officers aboard U.S. destroyers, the pilots inside stealth aircraft, the technicians in Jordan who survived the opening strike, they are part of a structure built around speed, training, and trust. When the radar went offline, there was no confusion at the center of the network. No one waited for a dramatic speech. No one waited for a perfect picture. Every unit already knew its role. The response had been rehearsed, simulated, tested, and refined long before this night began. That is the real advantage. Not one platform, not one aircraft, not one missile, but a system of people and machines trained to move together. For Tehran, the lesson is harsh. A country can develop a headline-making weapon like the Fatah one. It can build something fast, advanced, and dangerous. But it cannot instantly build a full system of systems. It cannot instantly recreate decades of combat integration, carrier operations, satellite coordination, undersea launch capability, electronic warfare, logistics, and real-time command networks. As the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower turns back toward its patrol route, the flight deck is already returning to rhythm. Crews prepare aircraft for the next scheduled operation. The intensity fades, but the network remains active. The Persian Gulf becomes quiet again, not because the risk has disappeared, but because the other side has been reminded what it is facing. Taking one $300 million radar offline creates a headline. Watching an entire military command network lose visibility, coordination, and momentum in less than 2 hours creates a strategic reality. So the question remains, did Iran make the biggest mistake in modern naval strategy by targeting that THAAD radar? Or has the hypersonic era truly changed the balance, even after such a powerful response? The numbers are hard to ignore. One radar lost on the American side, billions in disrupted Iranian infrastructure on the other. Was this proof that hardened assets are still needed, or proof that the networked kill web is already enough to control the battlefield? Tell us your tactical take in the comments. Should the United States invest in stronger fixed defenses, or double down on the connected systems that turn every sensor into part of a larger shield? For more deep dives into modern defense technology, military networks, and the systems shaping global security, subscribe and turn on notifications. We do not just follow the headlines, we break down the machines behind them. Stay sharp, stay informed, and we will see you in the next episode.